Okay, got my mic in, which is good. Bring that up nice and close. I have to hear myself. Putting on my headphones. Okay. What do I sound like? Wow. Okay. Perfect. All right, I can hear myself loud and clear, which is great. Just need to set up a few things. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Well, hello there. Hello there. Someone on LinkedIn. Okay, let's hope the stream stays live. It should, because I'm actually connected via Ethernet. I learned my lesson. I think I'll be connected via Ethernet now and for every live stream. Makes perfect sense. All right, so let's just move that there. Just need to prepare a few things on my end. Looks like it's coming through. Everything's coming through nice and loud, which is great. I'll pop that up a bit more. Close that. Really do need a third monitor, but I can't handle too many monitors. Really do need a third monitor. Okay. All right. So we've got that sorted out. What else am I doing now here? Oh, yeah, that's right. Always forget. Welcome back, everyone. New year. Pretty much the first Friday. We're starting things off. Took last week off. Was umming and ahhing about that. Should I take it off? I thought, no, why not? Need the break. Kind of. And for some reason, one of my mouses is being charged as I'm fixing things up. As I'm streaming. Okay. Hopefully I'm nice and loud coming through. Final recording. Now I have to make sure I've got all my backups. As I'm well aware, things can break. Okay. So recording that screen now. Well, let me just make sure. Okay. Set things up here. Set things up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Always zoom in 12 times in iTerm. Make sure that's a nice bit of zoom in. There we go on there. That's ready to go. About to go live. Let me just do one last thing and then we are good to go. So please chuck in the chat. There's things you want covered. It's going to be a fun one. So, well, hopefully it's going to be a fun one. We'll see how things go. Yeah. All right. Going live. And what's this? Artisan. There we go. Okay. Great, 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 great. Okay. I'm expecting quite a turnout because it is still holidays. Well, a few places that I work with are still on holidays. So, you know, we're pretty quiet, but that's right. I enjoy an uneventful live stream. All right. So let's get things going. I've probably missed something. I feel like I haven't done the live stream for ages, but I just missed one week. That's it. Seriously, feel like yeah. Okay. So let's begin, just making sure there's no questions. Everything's working. We are good to go. All right. Well, before we begin, I just want to mention that I do have a premium community over at webwash.net. So if you want to learn more about it, head over to webwash.net/premium. And right now, I still have the lifetime access for 99 euros. And you get access to a whole bunch of premium live streams. Well, live streams that have been converted into courses. And you can access them by going to courses right here. And they're all ad free, but they're also cut up and just cleaned up as well. And I'm in also the process of getting a lot of these live streams in an ad-free environment pretty soon. So I'm working on this whole new /live streams page where you'll be able to get all of these live streams ad-free pretty much the next day or day after, the third day after I've recorded them, just so I can get them out there pretty quickly, because there's a lot of great value in these live streams and I want to make them available for the community. So if you want to help out the channel, just head over to webwash.net. I've also started putting up a lot of the live streams in text format as well, and this is available for free. You can go ahead and read it if you prefer reading your content in the text format. But if you want to support the channel, head over to webwash.net/premium. And once I get a few more community members, I'd love to do, like, say, private live streams as well, but I just don't have enough numbers for that right now. So check it out. And I just want to mention that before we start. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's just get right into it. So lately, I've been really into daisyUI and also Tailwind as well. Now, I've known about Tailwind for a pretty long time, and I think the AI gods, if you'll call them that, or the LLMs, have kind of chosen Tailwind as the de facto CSS framework, essentially, let's be honest, whenever you vibe code websites. So it's important to understand Tailwind. But if you played around with Tailwind, you know that you don't get much out of the box, because the whole concept of that is that you kind of build things out yourself with classes. Now, I don't want to get into the whole political part of, is Tailwind is good or bad, because developers have varying opinions. Some developers love it, some developers hate it, and I'm kind of in the middle where I'm like, you know what, I wouldn't call myself a CSS expert, but if I can easily chuck in a few classes and float things and flex this and grid that and it just works, you know what, I don't care. It's like, I'm sure, there's always the good side and the bad side of any technology, and you work within its means, okay? But one thing you'll notice straight away when you use Tailwind is that when you set it up on a Drupal site, there's not much styling, okay? You need to build a lot of your components. So this is where daisyUI comes in, because daisyUI sits on top of Tailwind, but it gives you reusable components, and also it gives you a set of classes that you can use to build out these components. So it kind of saves you the hassle of creating your custom components and defining your classes and things like that. And it gives you a pretty decent set of components. So you have buttons. Okay, this kind of standard stuff. Like, yes, you can do this, of course, in Tailwind, but you need to kind of style out your buttons manually, unless you create a button style. You have like accordions. You can create accordions. You have card style. Wait, where's the kitchen sink? Is it here that the kitchen sink? Up the top, documentation. I saw that. Maybe not. Maybe I saw that somewhere else. But you can kind of see carousels. You've got carousels. You've got collapsible, kind of like that's pretty much an accordion, let's be honest. Then you have a countdown. Look at that. That does look pretty cool. What else? You have breadcrumbs, okay? Everyone loves breadcrumbs. You'll be surprised how important breadcrumbs are to IA, that's information architecture, when an editor really wants to control things. They're always like, we need to make sure the breadcrumbs show this category. It's pretty important. And then if you scroll further down, you do have, what is it? Hero components, okay? So daisyUI comes with a lot of pre-built components, and that works great for Drupal, because Drupal is all about building our components, especially with Canvas and single directory components. Now, to be fair, single directory components have been around for a while, but now with Canvas available, which is now for people who don't know, Drupal Canvas is a new module for Drupal that gives you essentially a page builder. And the first version was released on the 4th or the 5th of December last year. So as of this recording, it's less than a month old. And so I do think, with that module out, things will change on the way you build Drupal sites. And so today I want to show you how to use this theme called Artisan, which utilizes daisyUI as its framework. So it's a base theme which is built on top of Tailwind and daisyUI. Now, people can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think the first version was originally, so here you have two versions. Version 1 was Bootstrap, and then version 2 is daisyUI. That's why I never really noticed it, because I've been searching for like a nice Tailwind setup for Drupal, and it's like, I feel like only now the Drupal community has kind of picked up on it. Bootstrap, there's a ton, there's like 5 different Bootstrap themes for Drupal, and I've done many videos on Bootstrap. But for Tailwind, not quite. Like, there's not that many themes out there. If there are themes, please send them across, because sometimes my Google skills aren't that good. But it's good to see, this Artisan theme, because you can finally implement daisyUI in Drupal. Now, the good thing about this theme is that it does everything at the theme level. Now, there is another theme, which is called, what is it? UI Suite So you do have this UI Suite daisyUI. So this theme integrates daisyUI. I'm going to say the word UI a lot tonight, so bear with me. This theme integrates daisyUI with the UI suite of modules. And yes, it's a theme, but you need to install a whole bunch of like UI patterns and things like that. And UI patterns is a collection, like UI patterns, UI styles, and things like that is great if you want to control your single directory components from Drupal's UI. But what I like to do sometimes is just to see what is available out there. And sometimes just being able to do it from code, from the theme, just makes things a little easier, because there's less levels of abstraction. We can just get down and dirty with the code. So tonight we're going to be setting up this Artisan theme and just going through the process of installing it, downloading it, because one thing I'll tell you right now is the actual developer experience is pretty good compared to a lot of other themes. Like a lot of other themes, just you download it and then you're like, okay, what do? Have to read the README. But this kind of gives you a drush command, and you'll see you can set it up and get started very quickly, which is very, very important for like basic developer experience, or as I like to call it, I think DX or something like that. So without further ado, let's jump right in, because this is my beautiful looking Drupal site with Olivero on the front end. This is just a standard Drupal 11.3, I think. It's the latest one. It's 11.3. And what we're going to do is go ahead and, well, you first want to come along in here and simply download it. Now, I've already done that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this command, because believe it or not, there is a command, a drush command, that comes with the theme. So you first of all want to have drush installed. If you don't know what drush is I think it stands for Drupal shell, and it's a command line interface for Drupal. So I can jump over here, and I'm going to type in ddev first, because I am running ddev, so I need to run ddev in front, but essentially you'll just run drush. So if I type in drush, it is a command line interface that I can interact with. Well, let me just zoom out a little bit more. Hopefully that's going to look a bit better. I don't like it when it's all on multiple lines. Come on. Let's try the terminal one last time. No, oh wait. That's probably better now. Perfect. Anyway, who cares? All right, so here we have drush, and you can see these are just commands that you can run, so you can clear the cache and config and things like that. And if you want to learn more about drush in general, I do have a live stream on it. Just head over to the YouTube channel. and check it out and just search for getting started with Drush or something. And the good thing is what we can do is we can come along in here and run this command, which is drush include. So I have already downloaded it. Well, actually, let me just double check if I have downloaded it, because what I want to do is I need to show you, yes, I have downloaded it, but you may get an error because of your minimum stability. So what we're going to do, just to demonstrate it, to make sure you can see it all in action, let me just uninstall it and I will reinstall it just to show you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Okay, so that is all removed. And what we're going to do, and I need to also change, let me change this back to stable, because when you download Drupal the first time, that will be, the minimum stability will be set to stable. So if I come along down here, grab version 2, and type in ddev, of course, composer, it's going to come along in here, and it's going to complain about this, okay? It's going to say that, and honestly, I've been using Composer now for what? Well, since last like 15, 12, 13 years properly. And always I struggle to read these. Sometimes you're like, okay, I kind of know what the problem is, but to actually read it exactly, it's a bit difficult to me, especially when you have like problem 1, problem 2, problem 3, problem 4. And it happens a lot, trust me. But essentially what's happening is this CSS variables composer, which is a module that is getting pulled down by the theme, because themes can have dependencies with Composer. There is no stable release for it. So if we jump over to here and click on CSS variables composer, you'll see that there is just a beta release. So what we can do is we can change the minimum stability to beta right here, or we can change it to alpha. I like to change it to alpha because let's be honest, you sometimes need to always have it set to alpha. But what I'll do is I will change this and I'll just run the following command through Composer. So you can change it manually, that's fine, or you can just run composer config minimum stability. And if we jump back to here, you'll see that that's been changed now to alpha, which is fine. And I can go ahead and then just run ddev composer, and it's going to go ahead and download everything for me. Okay, so now what we can do is run this drush command. Where is it? Well, let's go back to here. Where is it? We need to run this drush command. Now, you don't have to install the actual theme at this point. All you need to do is make sure the paths are correct. So you will see the -- include, okay? So this is pointing to where the command is actually stored. Now, be aware if this path isn't correct. So you may or may not have your Drupal site in the doc root of web. It can be a different folder. It could be doc root as well. It could be public HTML. It could be anything. So if we were to remove this and you run that, that's not going to work because I need to run ddev in front because I'm running ddev. But if you run that command and you get this type of command, then just double check and make sure that the include is correct. So if I type in /web, it goes through and it gives me this nice prompt. Now I can go through here and let me just put in a few, or fill this out. So the first one's going to be the name. So I'll call this one Artisan. And it's going to go ahead and confirm, yes, I want it to be created. And it's telling me that it already exists. Now, apologies for that. What I need to do is delete the test one, which I didn't do. So give me a moment. Let's just delete that and we'll start again. Okay. So if I clear that, go through this process, Artisan, there we go. Do you want that to be created? Yes, I do. And now what it can do is it can go ahead and compile things for you, which is pretty cool. And this is what I mean of the developer experience. It's like straight away, bam, it tells you, yep, it generates it for you. And it goes, do you want to compile it? Now, because I'm running ddev and I do have a container running this site, it's going to run the npm dependencies like npm install and the build and the Vite build in the container. So of course you need to make sure you have that set up. Again, I could just type in select no and run it locally, which I will when I'm clearing things out, but I do know that ddev has it installed. And if you take a look at the actual code, it's actually pretty easy and simple. So you come into Artisan here, and where is it? Commands, Artisan commands, and essentially all we're doing is running, where is it? So we come along in here and it's running PHP. So this is actually, believe it or not, this is the standard generate theme command. So it goes ahead and generates it. So you can run this command yourself if you want to get rid of all the PHP-ness out of it. You know, all the PHP code. If you want to remove all the PHP around it and then just generate a command from it, you can kind of do that. Or then what you can do, and then you can see here, it just goes ahead and generates, again, it just runs these commands in the container, and then it goes ahead and just simply installs all the correct things. So let's go ahead and set yes. Give it a moment. It's going in there. It's compiling. Almost done. Oh, thank you. And then he goes ahead and he wants to ask me, yep, do I want to install it? And he just runs it and installs it. Okay. So that's it. We're done. We can go home now. And if we come along in here and refresh, what do we see? Well, we kind of see a website. Okay. We don't have okay, so the bar's up the top here. But we kind of have a website. Okay. We kind of have a website. All right. And this is all test data that I've just chucked in. And if I log in incognito and go to /user, you can see that buttons are already styled and also form elements are already styled. Now, this is a mixture of the Artisan theme, integrating it nicely with daisyUI, but daisyUI, I believe, does come with styles for forms. Tailwind does have a plugin for Tailwind forms, but you then need to integrate that with Drupal. And that's the good thing about this theme. That's one thing I do like about this theme, is that it just adds enough, how can you say it? He adds enough styling, not to be too opinionated, but just enough where it's manageable that if you do want to modify things, you just go in there and modify it yourself. And that's one thing I like. When something is way too opinionated and it forces you down a particular path, and themes can be like that sometimes, then it makes it hard to modify things. But this theme does not, and I do like that. All right, so we've got the theme set up. Now let's quickly set up a few more things, because we need to set up blocks. And yeah, that's kind of the next thing we need to do, the blocks, because everything is a block. Okay, so let's go to structure, block layout, and we'll click on block region, and you will see that we do have a few regions. We have this under, well, you can probably can't see that. Where is that? Top navigation up the top there. And it's pretty cool. It's got a theme switcher. So you can switch between dark mode and light mode. That is pretty cool. And it actually works pretty well. Okay. So let's zoom that in a little bit, and you can see the regions that we have. Now, the navigation start region, center, and end, that is specific to, where is it? To the navbar component, I believe, in daisyUI, because daisyUI has those components as well. So it's got a navbar start, center, and end. So it kind of sticks to this paradigm. So what we need to do is, first of all, you'll notice that we can't see any blocks. And all we need to do to fix that up is we clear that and just run drush cr and refresh. You'll all of a sudden see a whole bunch of blocks, but they are disabled. So I'm just going to quickly, I've got my list here, fix things up. So I want this user one to be there. Okay, so it's going to be main navigation will be center. So I'm just going to quickly move these blocks around. So that's going to be down there. Main page content is going to be in content. Search form can stay. Well, no, actually, this one goes there. Breadcrumbs goes to content. Search form stays there. Primary action goes to content, content, and that one goes to content, and that one goes to content. All right, now let's just quickly save it. And now what we need to do is just enable them all. So enable, enable, enable. It would really be good if I can have some type of AI just come in here and enable it. Let me just quickly do this. Come on. Okay. Getting there. All right. So we have footer, branding. What I'll do is I'll also add in, I do like having the, what is it, site branding here. Site logo. I'll put that there and I'll click on save. Very important. So we have that. Yep. And let's put in main content is always at the bottom, breadcrumb at the top, status message, and we need to add in the page title. So there we go. Okay, let's just fix that up. So right now we do have a kind of a okay looking, if we scroll all the way down, okay, we can see that. We do have a website essentially. Okay, now if we open up, so let me open up incognito. And what we can do, there's still a few things to fix up, okay? So here we have our theme toggle, which is great. We also have drop downs, which is awesome. That works out of the box. And if we scroll all the way down, let me just close that off. And if we scroll all the way down, we do have the branding down there. We've also got the footer buttons there as well. And what we can do is if we resize it, scroll all the way up, the header is sticky, which is cool. And if we resize it, we do get a draw here on the left-hand side, which is pretty cool. Now, this all comes out of the box with the Artisan theme. Of course, you can implement any type of mobile menu, but this comes out of the box. And if we click on this search icon, we get a nice little search pop-up, which redirects us to the search form. Now, one thing to be aware of, and I really didn't have time to kind of debug this, because yeah, I had to prepare for this live stream because no matter what, Friday nights, whenever this live stream goes out, I go live no matter what. And I didn't have time to kind of debug this, but you'll notice that here we have the main menu gets added in here. Now that's all fine when you're not when you are logged in. But if you are logged in and scroll and pop it open, you'll see the icon, the logo, but you won't see the menu. Now, if we hover over that, let's go in there and inspect it, you will get this placeholder. So this Bigpipe placeholder. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure there's a simple fix for it. I just didn't have time to really debug it. But essentially, because I'm logged in as a user, so the whole thing about Bigpipe, as I understand it, is that it essentially adds placeholder for bits of dynamic content. And then using cache tags and cache context, you can then cache certain parts even for logged in users. And then it'll come ahead and dynamically update that content. Now, unfortunately, because I'm logged in as a user, I don't know if it's the way the component's been set up or it just needs to be configured differently. But if I turn off Bigpipe, now I know this isn't a working solution. So if you do have a site that has a ton of traffic, you may not just want to go ahead and turn it off. But if I go ahead and just uninstall this Bigpipe and then come along in here, I can now see the menu. Okay. So that kind of does that. It's a temporary fix. It's kind of like the episode of The Simpsons where Homer's driving and he has like a check engine light on and just covers it with a sticker or something. Like, it's just, I understand that's the equivalent, but I'm sure there's a simple fix. Hopefully there's a simple fix. If there is a simple fix, let me know in the comments. If not, also let me know in the comments as well, because I'll be very, very curious. So that's all what we need to do on that to fix that up. Because yeah, as you see, it works for logged in users because logged in users probably see the whole output straight away. But yeah, it is a little different for logged in users. Now, the final block that we're going to put in is, let me go ahead and put in let me go to this tab. I'll put in the page title because we need the general page title. So where's that? That's right there. And I'll add that to content. Oh yeah, I'll add it above there. Why not? And the good thing is that you can come along in here. Well, you'll now see 2 page titles, and you'll also see that our tabs here, we have these floating tabs here on the right-hand side. Now, this is just styled that way. You can change it in the theme. You'll probably have to change a bit of theming, do a bit of theming there, but it is you just go in there and change it. But let's fix up this page title, because you can see that page title is getting added twice. It's getting added in the block and also in the actual article. But we still need the page title, because remember, if we log out and go to login, we want to see login. Well, actually, I want that above there. Let me fix that up. Oh no, I need to log in. Let me log in and add it above the tabs. Yeah, that looks terrible. Configure block, page title. Oh, interesting. I never noticed that. You can't actually change the order of the block in the region from this page. That's right. Come along down here and let's move that up the top. Because now what we can do, there we go. We've got it right there. And also I should mention that this styling, this kind of like gray, I don't know if you can see that in the stream, but this kind of like has a dark gray background. This is also just added by the theme. So you can go in there and change it. So yes, there is some opinion in it, but as I was saying, it's not that opinionated as other themes. So you can go in there and make your changes. But one thing I do want to change, so let's go back to the home page and let's click on one of these blog posts. I want to hide it. I want to hide this block based off the fact that we are on an article. So there's a few ways we can do that. So if we come to configure block visibility, we have this, we have this visibility section, and there are a bunch of modules out there that can take this to the next level, and you can actually install them and add in different negate options. But you'll see here that yes, we can have content hidden on actual on the actual, what is it, content type. But one thing, something that I like to do is I like to use this option right here, which is, for pages. So we want to hide it. We want to hide the page listing from the listed pages. So what we can do is put anything that's /blog and then star. So if the path to the article is /blog/title, it should hide it. But of course, it's still showing it right now because the path is node/18. So to fix that up, all we need to do is go ahead, or let me check and see if I've got URL Pathauto installed. No, I don't. Let's go ahead and install Pathauto. So for people that don't know, Pathauto just automates the creation of URL aliases or slugs. That's what they're commonly known as. So instead of coming along in here, clicking on edit, and then manually putting in, hope you can see that just above my head. Yes, you can. URL on this URL alias, instead of manually putting this in /blog/whatever, you can actually automate that process. So what we can do is come along in here, configuration, your URL aliases, and then now you will see patterns and things like that. So if we click on patterns and add Pathauto pattern, click on content, and let's put in the new path, which will be blog/, and then what we need to do is select the actual token for the title. Now, I know what that token is because I've spent many years doing this, but essentially you want to come in here and grab this token right here. So what we can do, I think we can put our cursor in there and click on title, and it's going to add it in. And we want this applied to not basic page, blog, and let's just call this one article. Click on save. And last but not least, what we need to do is go ahead and generate the URL aliases. And now if we come back here, refresh and go to a page, it should have /blog/ then the title name. And you can see now that title is no longer there. Simple. Okay, there you go. That is fixed. Now we no longer have two titles there. All right, so from a basic site building standpoint, I mean, that's pretty much it for just fleshing out the actual theme. And if we go to appearance and click on settings on our ww_artisan, there's not much there. Like, yes, you can change the Vite dev host and dev port, but generally I really didn't play around with that stuff. But also you can adjust the footer settings. So if you want it to be 2 columns, you can adjust a few things there. But other than that, that's pretty much it when it comes to configuration. Everything else is done at the actual theme level. So let's take a look at the actual theme. So let's jump over to PHP Storm and I'll open things up this way. And if we go to custom, and then we have our actual theme right here. So daisyUI is compiled using Vite. So that's the front end. That's the front end tech that is used to compile things. And every time I look at a Vite config, and this is why it took me ages to kind of move over to it. Every time I look at it, I always get scared by just the amount of custom code. And it's like, and you think to yourself, all I want to do is just copy over, compile things. And so it's taken me ages to finally move across to it. But here you can see, yeah, this one's a big chunky one. But I feel like as you start using Vite, you always start with the simplest and then you slowly add to it over time. Because I did do a live stream on using Tailwind and Canvas. And I utilized Vite to compile Tailwind. And I've just put in a bit of code in there. It wasn't that much. I just used a bit of code. It's probably like 20 lines of code, not 100 and nearly 70 lines of code. But I can see that, yeah, there is a reason for it. There's a lot here involved. But you don't really have to want to touch this. Unless you want to go ahead and modify things, you can do that. Now, to compile things, let's go to package.json. And the two most important ones are build and build watch. So build simply compiles everything and then chucks it into the dist folder. All right, so we've got a comment in YouTube. Hello. Well, hi there. First comment from YouTube. There we go. Finally getting some comments. So please bring your comments in. Ask any questions about Drupal or anything. Always love to chat. Don't be afraid. Always chat. It's the whole point. I pretty much work remotely. Well, no, I do work remotely. So it's always good to kind of have a conversation. Now, as I was mentioning, so we have build and build watch. So the build is what you want to run just before you deploy. So with the dist folder, everything goes into here, like distribution. And depending on your build system, on the way you deploy things, this may or may not be committed into code. That's up to you. But yeah, you just have to figure that out, the way you want to handle that stuff. And then you have a build watch, which simply just watches for changes and then builds every single time. So what you could do is when you are working on something, you could have, well, let's just go into it. What is it? Web themes. Why is it not fine? Where is that? Web. Where am I? Why isn't that Artisan? Oh, need to go back. Okay, let's go do that again. Now we've got stuff. All right, cool. So right now I am in, yep, all right, perfect. I'm in there. So what we can do is run npm run build and, well, no, actually maybe I need to run npm install, just to make sure I've got everything, and then run npm run build, and it's going to go ahead and simply run it for me. It's going to always complain about a few things. Honestly, it's like, yeah, there's always things that it complains about. And then if you want to run watch, that will make changes and watch for changes as you are doing things. Okay. So those are the only two commands that you really need to deal with to compile stuff. Now, one thing that needs to be mentioned, and if you understand Tailwind, then you can kind of skip this part. But one thing to be aware of is that the way Tailwind works, and when you compare it to, say, other frameworks, CSS frameworks such as Bootstrap, so what it does is that it actually compiles and uses all of the classes that are defined in your code, and simply compiles a version of Tailwind to just use those classes. That way, you don't have this 200K or 300K CSS file that comes down, and you need to always serve that, even though you may only use, say, half of the components. And that's the benefit of Tailwind. It simply compiles a version of your CSS using the classes that you have specified in your code. Now, the tricky part is, especially for Drupal, because you may have classes hidden around that's not in code, is telling Tailwind which classes to use. So if we come to main, you'll see here that there are a few sources. So when Tailwind or Vite comes in here and compiles things, it will look in the source directory in templates. So if you add any classes into a Twig template like Tailwind classes, it will see that you are using, what is it, the PT-1, which is padding top level 1. And then it'll automatically make sure that that class is compiled and added to Tailwind. And it just goes through all of these options here and make sure that any classes defined are compiled. Now, that works fine if everything's in code, but Drupal, lo and behold, not everything is in code. You may have some configuration in drop-downs and things like that. So this is where, and I've actually noticed this a few times, because I've had this thought as well when I was playing around with Tailwind in like a Next.js site or like a Astro site where everything's in code. It's fine. You can easily just put in a style and then just compiles it. It's fine. It's all there. But then I was straight away thinking, it's like, wait a minute, how do you use Tailwind? And this was before I spent a bit of time playing around with Tailwind. It was like, how do you use Tailwind in Drupal when all the classes may not be exposed to the compiler? And straight away I thought, well, yeah, I mean, you could just create a text file, but is that the right way of doing it? Is that the proper way of doing it? And by the looks of it, yes, it is. This is actually the second theme I've seen this be done. I think it was a UI suite, daisyUI theme as well, was doing a similar thing. It had a safe list. And so essentially, if you do add in some classes, say for example this, okay, these are daisyUI classes. So of course, if your code isn't utilizing the card component, it simply won't add that card component to the compiled list. So just be aware of that. If you are building out some functionality and you're adding in a class and Tailwind and Vite isn't aware of that class, you may have funny issues where the site just kind of looks broken, or you may not notice that things aren't looking correctly. Then make sure that things are being compiled and you're adding it to this either safe list, or make sure Vite can actually see the class. That's very important, because I've been caught off a few times where I'm like, okay, it kind of looks like it's working, especially when you're throwing in like 20 odd classes into things. And it's like, wait a minute, this kind of looks broken. And then you run the build and it's like, okay, yeah, now it's working because it compiled a padding and things like that. So I just want to use that as a public service announcement. So as you can see here, okay, there is some styling, and some styling is required, but it's very minimal. And again, I've mentioned this a few times before. One thing I really like about this theme is that it's lightly opinionated. That's probably the correct way of saying it? Yeah, it's opinionated. It's opinionated, but not too opinionated. And I do like it, because when you look at this CSS, it makes perfect sense. You can come along in here. It utilizes CSS variables. You can jump to it. You know exactly what needs to be changed. Come along in here, make your change, and happy days. You can see that, yep, you have your font family, you have your forms. Now, this is one thing that I do love because this is, this is something where you do spend a lot of your time just fluffing around with the forms and making sure the forms look pretty, and the forms do look nice. Then you have your helpers, utilities, and then you also have, very important, you have classes for CK editor so that your styling look good in CK editor. So yes, spend a bit of time, get your head around this stuff if you really want to make sure things are working. Now, one thing to be aware of is if we jump over, now let's jump over back to our site. And I do want to mention, and I mentioned this before, if we go and we're not logged in to our site, we do get these errors. It is complaining about the once library. Well, I know it's complaining about the once library because it's saying once is not defined. Now, you might be reading that and you're like, what the once is not defined? What does that mean? Well, there is a Drupal library called once. And the library, what it does is that it allows you to encapsulate or wrap code around the once function so that the bit of JavaScript only gets applied to the DOM and run once, so it doesn't get run multiple times. It used to be a jQuery plugin, but then jQuery, we're kind of moving away from jQuery, and now it's just standard vanilla JavaScript function. But it is an important function. So here on the header, you can see that it's complaining about that once is not available, and it's probably used, where is it? Should be used here somewhere. Oh, here you go. So that means that it is applying this theme header height, and it's only adding it once. So it's rendered simply one time. Now, why is this happening? Well, the reason why it's happening is that, the reason why it's happening when you're not logged in compared to when you are logged in, because if you are logged in, you don't get that error. So if we go to the home page, we don't get any errors. And the reason for that is chances are there's another library that is getting loaded up that has a dependency on once, and so the once library is already loaded up. And this happens often with asset libraries in Drupal. You get varying issues depending if you're logged in or you're not logged in. So top tip, always test JavaScript, especially when you're dealing with assets and JavaScript in Drupal. Always test either logged in or not logged in. Even if you have different user accounts, you may want to test it, because if you're logged in as admin may get access to a library that has a certain dependency that's pulling in the dependency, but then when you're not logged in with a particular role, or you're logged in with a particular role, you may not get that dependency, so you get different states. So always test by being logged in and or not logged in. This has caught me off guard many times as well. Now, the simple way to fix it is we can just force those libraries to essentially be always on. So what we can do is, all we need to do is set them as a dependency. So I'm just going to add it to this init, because this is the main JavaScript that gets added to the theme. And this init, if we come to info, you will see that it is getting added right here. So it is the main library that's getting added. Now, if you want to learn more about how to manage these assets and libraries, there is a live stream. I do have a live stream over at the YouTube channel. I think it's called something asset libraries, or just Google that in the live stream section and you will find it, because it is a pretty powerful part of Drupal, and it is surprisingly powerful when you actually start playing around with it, just how much you can override, and especially with the libraries, because you can override and extend other libraries. So you're not locked in. You can control absolutely everything. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, check out that live stream. So now that we've done that, let's just clear the cache. Drush, clear, rebuild cache. I say clear the cache, CC all. as I used to say in the good old days. That's going to work, I know that. Come along in here, and we should have no errors. Cool. Okay, so now everything's getting loaded up. And if I come in here, I should type in once, and you can see that, yep, once is getting loaded. And that's it. That is it. Okay. So let's go ahead now and look at modifying CSS variables, because that's where a lot of, that's where you can modify a lot of things. So CSS variables are used a lot in daisyUI and Tailwind, but especially in this theme. If we come to main.css, which kind of compiles everything together, you'll see that there's a lot of variables. A lot. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, there you go. Keep going a bit more, and there you go. There's a lot of variables here. And if we want to go ahead and simply change it, what we can do is come to one of these, and if we inspect it, so let's go ahead and inspect, say, this, what is this? A badge. Let's go and inspect it. You can see here, let me zoom that in a little bit more. Let me move that so it's not, there we go. My head's not in the way. And if we inspect that, let me bring that up a bit more. Perfect. Now, this badge color is using the color secondary, and the color secondary is using the theme secondary. So you want to track it all down to this main theme secondary. So we can come along in here and, give it a green color if you want. And then what I can do is just grab this. Let me just refresh that. Again, it's back to this pinkish. Come along and let me just duplicate that, comment that out, come back to it, can make a change. And of course, you need to go ahead and compile things. So let's open this up and npm run build. There you go. That's been built. And if I refresh, you can see now it's a nice green. And that's it. That's how simple it was to change it. Now that's the benefit of CSS variables. That was the benefit of it. I actually remember I actually held off learning about CSS variables. Like I went through a phase where I was really, a couple of years ago, where I just thought of myself as, I'm a back-end developer. I don't touch the front end. I don't want to learn the front end. But yeah, over the last couple of years, I finally, once I started dabbling with other things, not just Drupal, then I started playing around with CSS a lot more. And yeah, things have changed. Mate, I remember when, what was it? When we used to do table designs in HTML. And then this big thing, div-based designs, we used to call it, like, and floats. That was the big thing, div-based designs. And so there was a period in like the early noughties, like 2004, 5, and 6, where as soon as you see table designs, because what was it? Dreamweaver used to generate, you could actually design everything in Dreamweaver and generate it. And then it'll export it out as a table design, or you'd use Photoshop to design everything and then generate splices and things like that. The good old days. And then it was divs, floats, and now it's all flexbox and grids and variables. The good old days. And now everyone's trying to go back to like just standard CSS. It's pretty powerful what you can do with CSS. Yes. All right. Now, that's one way of changing the CSS variables. There is another way of changing it, and that is all through Drupal. So let me just quickly come along in here, and I will go undo, undo, undo. I'll undo all of this so that it's all the same. We can make that change there, okay? And what we can do, let's edit this page, and I will give it a link. Insert, where's the save button? Save button's up the top there. And there we go. We have the link right there. And if we inspect that, what do you think that's going to be? Well, that's going to be the theme link content. And that is right there. And that, of course, is theme primary. But we can change this through Drupal's backend. And that is thanks to the CSS variables customizer. So this actually came down with the theme, and that was the one that was complaining about the fact that it wasn't stable. It was in a beta form. And what we can do is come to Appearance, CSS Variables Customizer, select our theme, and you do have a bunch of stuff you can change. You've got your colors. You can even change typography. Now, variables aren't just about colors. It's any type of it's any type of attribute you can change or value. You can also change the container, spacing, radius. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can change. But the one that I want to change, let me just click on that again so I can go straight to it, is go to links and let's change the theme link content. Okay, so we've got that one. So what we can do is let's go back to, well, here, and let's change this to be, I don't know, let's give it a nice red. Now, I like to change it in here so I can actually just grab this bit of code. And what we can do, place it in here. And I believe that should be it. Come along in here, scroll down, hit save. Let's go to links. Yep, it's there. And now if we refresh, you can see that now that's been changed. And if we go to our color, it should have been overridden. And you can see now the location's a bit different because it is now added to the actual DOM. So it's just added as an inline style directly onto the DOM. You can see that it's been changed right here. And if we go in and inspect that, it should be right here. There you go. So here are your variables. So this way you can verify that it has been added. So if you want to change variables, you have two ways. You can change it directly from the theme itself and then compile things, or you can change it using CSS variables. So let me go ahead and remove that. And also removing the changes is pretty easy. Just come back in here, go to links, remove it, and then we'll just grab the default, scroll down and click on Save Configuration. Go to the home page. You can see that it's been reverted back, and we should just see, yeah, it just has this placeholder, and that's it. Okay. So that's pretty much the basics of just getting started with the theme. So setting it up, compiling it, and just a few things you want to change. Of course, if you want to go ahead and make drastic changes, you can do so, okay? But let's take a look at the components now, because that's where a lot of the magic happens. Now, as I mentioned, the good thing about daisyUI is that it comes with a bunch of components. It actually calls these things components. Okay, so you have all of these available components. And if we go to our site, you will see a components folder, but there's nothing there. And so what you need to do is go to Artisan and then see all of the available components. Now, these components are implemented using the single directory components in Drupal. Now, I've talked about that in the past, but essentially a single directory component, if we open one of these up, or if we open up a few of them, you will see that they come with often a Twig file. Well, the most important part of a component is the Twig file, say with article, and the YAML file. So the YAML file defines the props and the slots. So the best way to think about this is that a prop can be any type of, like, just like a string or a boolean that gets passed through. And so but a slot can handle other components getting passed to it. That's the way I understand it. So you can pass in other components into it, or from a Drupal standpoint, other render items or render arrays into it. And so also SDC, so single directory components, or SDC for short, also has the ability to load up any type of CSS or JavaScript that matches in the name. So when you create a component, you give it a name. So in this example, it's article. Then the component YAML file needs to start with article. The CSS needs to start with article, and also the Twig file needs to start with article as well. And I do believe there's probably a few more. Where is one with an actual? You see here, it's there. Well, which one had? Here you go. This is a perfect example. So when we load up the header, it will load up the component. Well, it'll figure out the metadata and all of the arguments required for the component using the YAML file, and then it will go ahead and load up the CSS, the JavaScript, and then it'll use the actual header. And then to implement these components, if we come along in here, for example, you can see that, yes, it just goes ahead and embeds it. Now, there's a few ways to embed components. There's embed, include, I believe, as well. And then we're just passing either props and slots over to the component. So if we go to, say, what is it, page? Is it a header? Is this the header one? Yeah. Okay. So you can see here that if we take a look at, say, the header component. So here we have the artisan. So the artisan is pointing to the actual theme, so it knows where the component can live. And then it's loading up the header. Now, this is good because you can have two components. As far as I'm aware, there is no problems in having two components named header as long as they're not in the same theme or the same namespace. Sorry. The same namespace. So we could have another header. We could have another header in our custom theme as well, but then it will be www_artisan : and then header. It'll pull that information in that way. And then here you can see the content. The content variable, well, that's technically a slot, I believe. That's why we are passing it all of these actual render arrays, essentially. And then the extra classes is just it's either a variable. Let me just have a quick look. Where is it? Oh, yeah, you can see extra classes is a prop, and that is getting passed in as a prop. But then top and content are slots, so they can handle, if you have a look here, they can handle actual render arrays. So these are the actual regions for those blocks. Now, I'm not going to cover single directory components tonight. That's a whole other thing. Maybe I should do a separate video on it in the future. But I've generally covered it a fair bit in when you're using Canvas and using UI Suite. I've covered it in the past. So that's pretty much it on the component side. Now let's do a bit of site building, because we're going to now see how we can put everything together and do a bit of site building. So as I mentioned, if I go back to the site, we do have some content. I did go ahead just to save you the heartache of watching me generate content. I went ahead and just generated some test content. And if we go into edit, we've got the title, we have a media field, and we've also got the content, the summary, and also the body field, and we have tags as well. So first things first, okay, I want to display the image. So how do we do that? Well, let's imagine we want to make that change. Let's first of all inspect, because what we can do is if we inspect and we have development debugging or Twig debugging turned on, we can see where these components are coming from. And you can also see which templates are being rendered. Now, to turn on this functionality, you want to go to configuration, development settings and make sure you have Twig development mode and also Twig debug mode, and also disable Twig caching, because Twig caching, it caches the Twig file into PHP. And when you have Twig debugging turned on, you do get all this information. It tells you exactly which layout is getting loaded up, or which Twig template, the location of it, and also which component's getting loaded up. So then you can kind of trace things. So right now you can kind of see that it's loading up. What is that? Node article full. Okay. So we come along in here, we go to our template. Where is it? Node article full. And you can see that it's loading up the Artisan article component. And there is an image, I believe that's a slot. Let me have a quick look. Article and image. Yes, image is a slot. You can see right there. But the problem is it's asking and pointing, it's asking for the field image. Now, the field image is the standard image that gets added when you install Drupal using the standard installation profile, but I want to use the media field. So it's a media, which is an entity reference field. And so that has been added. So all we need to do to fix this up is we need to change this to field media, because that's what I've added. Field media. Now the first bit of code just checks to see if the node has the field called field media, then making sure it's not empty. And most importantly, you want it to actually then render out the media field. And if we go in here and refresh, do we need to clear the cache? No, we don't. We get a image right here. Okay, we've got a nice big image. And let's just fix this up just so that it looks a bit nicer. Let's go into structure, content types, article, display. And what I'll do is I'll change this to hidden. And I'll change this to thumbnail because I want to display the wide. There we go. That's saved. And now if we refresh, we no longer have that media up there, but we have the image. And if we, let me just go ahead and make sure I'm in the first one. Let me just bring up, let me just quickly bring up one moment. Wait, where is that? I do have a better image. And I'll bring up one of my images that I had today. Right here. There you go. That's a better looking image. And if we bring that up, it now displays it fully, okay? And we have a nice little thumbnail there. And all we had to do to set that up was, where is it? Give me a moment. Jump back over here. We just had to change this right here, okay? We had to change what is getting passed to the image prop. So we had to add in node.hasField and then field underscore media. We have to make sure that it's not empty. And then if it's not empty, then it simply displays it. And if you want to go ahead and modify this, if you want to modify what Artisan article offers, you have a few options, okay? There's multiple ways of modifying it, but if we go to it, where is it? Wait, where is it? Right there, article. So that is article. You could, yeah, at this point, I was going to say, because often Twig themes and Twig templates or single directory components, sorry, do utilize the Twig block, so you can extend that block, but article doesn't. So essentially what you have to do is just copy this over, and you can just copy this article folder into your components. And then the most important thing you need to do is come along back into here and then just make sure you change it to point to your one, and then you can go in there and modify it whichever way you want. So that's how components are really integrated with Drupal. They are added, especially this way, in this theme, they are added through the Twig template. Now, if you were to use something such as UI Suite, the whole thing about UI Suite is that it gives you an interface for managing these single directory components through Drupal. So that can be through a field formatter, through layout builder, through the new design builder. There's a few ways of doing that. So that does it a bit differently. But then you need to kind of deal with that extra level of abstraction. Whereas here, in this case, you get access to it straight away. And, you know, you can easily, like this, I feel like sometimes there's a lot less debugging and especially a lot less clicking around, because you know straight away, okay, let me just throw this component in. And often what I do is I just try and get the basic component working first of all with just like dummy content, and then I start plugging things together. But the other benefit of having access to this code and just doing it all directly in the theme layer is you can get AI to do it because it's all in code. And of course, you know, Drupal will get better at modifying. Like right now, you can use AI to build out Drupal sites, but if stuff are heavily in Drupal's config and Drupal's backend, it can be a little harder. But if you do everything through code, it just makes life a lot easier if you are using AI to kind of generate this stuff, because you can, if you give AI enough context on how to embed these components, and my experience, especially with Claude Code, it's been pretty good at figuring out these components. It's gotten a few things wrong, wildly wrong, but it's been pretty good at understanding Twig, because Twig is a common library. It's used by Symfony. It's not just a Drupal thing. And that's one thing I do like, is like you can tell it exactly what to override, and it just goes in there. If you given the right context, it will get it right most of the time. Most of the time. So that's why I do like implementing it this way. And it's also good to get your fingers dirty in code. See, I have no idea what that means now with vibe coding and getting code written for you these days. What, getting your fingers dirty by prompting? Well, no, I don't even type my prompts these days. I talk my prompts. So yeah. Anyway, enough of a rant. All right, so now let's continue and do a bit more site building, because what I want to do is I want to display all of these articles that we have with the titles and images as card components. Now, the daisyUI CSS framework comes with a card component, and you can do a lot with it. You can see here, there's a lot of options. And Artisan comes with a card component as well. So if we go to where is it? Artisan, and then click on component. And you can see here that, it's got a lot of options. You can configure a lot of things. And you also have image, content, and actions as your slot. All right, so we've got a comment in YouTube. Very pleased to get an intro into Artisan. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Yes, absolutely. This was something that I was looking for as well, because it's a very it doesn't take too much away from you. It doesn't, try and control too many things, and it's very easy to set up. That's what I like about it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so how do we implement this? Well, what we're going to do is essentially create a new view mode. So yeah, create a new view mode called card. And we're going to create a views listing that's going to load up that view mode called card. And then we are going to simply add that card component exactly the same way as we are adding in this Artisan article, because you also see that there is teaser, and teaser is already using the card component. But I want to customize a few things. So I want to leave teaser this way, but I want to use card, but I want to have a separate card component. So we are pretty much going to just copy this, and then we can make changes to the block section, and you'll see how that all works out. All right, so let's go ahead and do, what is it? A bit of site building. Bit of site building. I always like a bit of site building. Let's come along in here, views, add a new view, and we'll call this one blog. And we can query just the article content. Now, I am going to create just a listing page. Now, if you are new to views, views is a very powerful Drupal module. I've got a live stream on that. Just search for getting started with views, but essentially it's a list builder. It's a query builder. If you, another way of thinking of it, you can use it to query your content and then display it in many ways that you want. It's a very powerful and complex module. As you will see, the UI can be a bit full on. So here I've added the title, the path, the articles. Well, we're going to be querying articles, and click on save and edit. You can see here that the config here is pretty complex. It does get very complex when you're dealing with relationships and contextual filters. But as I mentioned, if you want to learn more about it, there is a YouTube video on it over at webwash.net, and also the WebWash YouTube channel. So if we scroll down, we can see our articles in a teaser format. But what I want to do is everything looks good here. Let me change this to responsive grid. And I'll set the minimum to 250. So that means that the minimum grid cell width is 250. Anything below that, it will just stack nicely. And if we save, and then go to /blog, we'll see, there we go. We can see our card components. Okay, they're kind of coming together, coming together. And if we resize, let me bring this down a little bit. You can see that it does resize nicely, okay? And now that we have a /blog page, if we go to the actual article, we get breadcrumbs now. Yippee, there you go, breadcrumbs. Well, let's go to the first one. Wait, where's the first one? Is that the first one? No, it's not. Let's edit this by, no, let's sort it by updated date. No, authored on, no, changed. That's right, the change date. Because yeah, used to be posted date and it's different. That's right, change date, not the updated date. All right, done that. Let's remove that one. So that now I should be able to see the one that I updated. And it's got my nice little thumbnail. There we go. All right. So that's the views part. Let's now go ahead and create a card component. Display modes. Let's go to view modes. Click on add a view mode and call this one card. And we'll add it to the article content type. And let's configure it. We'll leave everything as it is. Well, we don't need that one. And what we're going to do, let's just leave that as it is. And now we need to jump over and pretty much clone this template, because right now, if we go to node, well, let's actually have a look, because this should be different, but I need to change, of course, this right here. So come back into views, go to format, and then click on teaser, and now we should select card. Click on apply, click on save, and if we refresh, it's going to look very different. But if we inspect this, let's inspect it, should find the article card. There we go, right there. Node article card. So all we need to do, and this is the benefit of using Twig debugging, because you can see this. Come along in here, copy paste, and let's just change this to card. And that's it. Now, all we need to do is let's add in the image. So if we come along in here, refresh, do we need to clear the cache? What did I do? Let's go back, refresh. Yes, I need to clear the cache. Oh, now I need to clear the cache. Let me just clear it. Even though caching is turned off. Okay, there we go. All right. So now it's pulling in the card component, which is perfect. Let's go back here and let's change the trimmed to, I don't know, what is that? 100. That's a bit better. And now we need to put the image in there. So what we can do is come back in here. If we go, let me just close all these, close others. Let's go back to the card component. Where is that? Top here. You can see that image. Here we go. Image is a slot. Same as content. So what we can do is do exactly the same thing. So let me just grab this. I'll duplicate that, call this one image. And this just needs to be, what is it? Field media, and field media. Refresh. We need to probably clear the cache. No, that's because I'm on the wrong template. I'm in article teaser. All right, let's go back down, open up card. Now let's open up this one. Let me close that one. Oh, all right. Now let's jump back into here. Fresh, and we get our images. Great. Okay. So we're getting somewhere. We're getting images, but they look terrible. They're all sorts of sizes. Let's try and make it consistent. So what we can do, you can see here, it's all a mess. Now, if we were using what is a masonry? Is that the right word? I was going to say mosaic. No, masonry. That's right. It's masonry. You see, masonry design like those libraries where like they're kind of like tiles and they go down. They were popular. I swear they were popular a couple of years ago, but now they're no longer popular. Anyway. So I want everything to be kind of like 16:9 ratio. So we'll do 16:9 ratio will be 1280 by 720. So the ratio of 720p videos. So let's fix that up. What we can do is open up another tab. Let's go to configuration and image styles. And I'll create another image style called card wide. So card wide, save image style, scroll down, and let's click on scale and crop. This is important. You need to scale it and then crop it so it stays at the same size. So what do I say? 1280 by 720. And we're going to, last but not least, we're going to add in this convert to AVIF. And let's do that. All right. Now what we need to do is come along. Can the hover go away? Thank you very much. All right. Let's come along in here and let's change this to use. So so the media is going to use the card wide. And let's also make it linkable so that you can click on the image and it links. And we'll come along in here, refresh. There we go. That's a bit better, a bit more consistency. Now, I'm not going to deal with the card height. That's a problem for the future. But yeah, you may want to fix up, put in like a card height or something. Or maybe you want to set, you could essentially, well, no, you could set a height. Yeah, there's a few ways of doing it. But yeah, we're not going to deal with that right now. We can see things are coming along nicely. Oh, let's fix up this pager down on the bottom. Now, the mini one doesn't quite work. What you want to do is change it to full pager. Refresh. And there you go, you get a nice little pager. And you need to put a bit of styling in there, but that can be fixed up later on. Just to kind of push it down a bit. Okay, so we're slowly building things out. Okay? Now, one thing I want to do is I want to make the title linkable. Okay? So how do we do that? Well, there's a few ways. If we go to the card component, let's bring it up. Where is it? Well, no, not go there. I want to go to the actual Twig template. Okay, So if we go to the card component, you can see that we are using these blocks in Twig. So what these blocks do, now these blocks have nothing to do with the block in Drupal. The word block is thrown a lot around in websites. But essentially what this allows you to do is that we can modify anything within this image block. And the way we do that, and we are already doing it right here. So you'll see here that we have this embed, okay? So we have wrapped this component. You can see that this component right here is, and then you have this end embed. So we are embedding this card component. Then we are overriding the actions block, which is right here. Where is it? It's right here. So this bit of HTML right in here, we are overriding. So if we were to say remove this, we won't see a button. Okay. So if I was to just chuck that in there, we'll just see the bit of text that we have. And that's the same. If I was to, well, let's see. Well, if I remove this, what happens? All right, it says 1. Okay. And that is because, oh yeah, that's got a true there. Okay. So in this example, you can see that, yes, a Boolean of true is getting passed. So I think that needs to be set to false, and then you'll no longer see it. But if we were to say set this to true, and then come along in here and make our changes in here, you'll see that that's getting added there. And if we come along in here, and let's now override this card, I do believe we should see card. So we are essentially overriding that bit of Twig, that Twig block right here. So that is a feature of Twig. Now that means we can modify how the title is being added. But there's a few ways we can do it. So let's just add this all back in, because I like this. So we can easily go ahead and add in another block. So here we go right here, okay? Block, title, and essentially all I'm doing is copying this bit of code and then just adding an A tag around it, and that's it. So now if I come along in here and refresh, well, we don't have a style for it, but it is now a link, okay? It's linkable. Go directly to it. There is also another way of doing it. What we can do is we can set a variable. And again, this really depends how you want to do it. It's up to you. So if we get rid of this, and I can pop this to the top here, I am setting this title variable. And of course, I just need to change it right down here to title, not tile, title, and refresh. It will work, and go ahead, and it's a link. So always have a look in the component to see what is a Twig blocks, because that means then you can go ahead and modify it. Now, in this case, I can see that this was deliberately set up. Well, this block here is deliberately built to be overridden because it's just displaying the Boolean, which is a 1 or nothing. Because you can see here, there's an if statement here to check if actions should be displayed. So that's how you create a basic card component, add a views, and modify things. Of course, when it comes to views, you may want to utilize the grid system in Tailwind. And in that case, you may want to override things. But this is where sometimes using something like UI Suite is pretty good, because you can then define your grid system all through UI patterns. And that does make life a lot easier, because you don't have to do it in code. But then you lose the ability to easily use AI. So when it comes to setting up and using the theme, and also just doing a bit of site building, that's pretty much it for the theme. As you can see, you get a lot out of the box. You get a great set of regions, and you get a nice standard style, and you can go in there and modify your fonts if you like. But now let's take a look at Drupal Canvas and how that integrates. Because let's be honest, Drupal Canvas, as far as I'm aware, is kind of the future of Drupal. It'll be interesting to see where things go. Only version 1 has come out, but a lot of people are behind it. A lot of big agencies are behind it, and it's just good to understand and see how how this theme will actually work if we were to implement Drupal Canvas with it. Now, for people who don't know Drupal Canvas, I did mention this in the beginning, but I'll just mention it again. Drupal Canvas, if you go to drupal.org, let me find my mouse. Where is it? There it is. We go to drupal.org/canvas. They should really put a screenshot on here on this project page or some type of thing to show the UI. No, I know you can watch a video here, but yeah, just at least some basic screenshot. So Drupal Canvas is a page builder or a website builder. I would say for now it's a page builder where you can add in single directory components and add your components to a page, and there's a nice UI for it. Now you might think, well, that's great, okay. Artisan uses single directory components. It's all, we can jump in there and start using things straight away. But my experience has been that you really need to build your components specifically for Canvas, and you need to make sure that they work in a very specific way. And I've seen components implemented in different ways, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So the most important thing is, you want to make sure that you define your schema up the top here, like your standard schema, and then there are certain props that need to be configured in specific ways. But you can install Drupal Canvas, and so let me quickly show you how to do that. So you want to go ahead and download it first. Now, I believe I've already got it downloaded. Where is it? Canvas. There it is. Cool. And as of this recording, there was one bug where if you try to install it through the UI, through Drupal's extend page, you did get an error, but if you install it through Drush, you're perfectly fine. So I haven't fully tested it because, the installation dies halfway and I don't want to have a broken site. So I'm not going to test it right now. But yeah, if you come along in here and install it, just do a backup because you may have issues with it. But what I'm going to do is just leave that for now and install it using Drush. So that will be ddev drush install canvas. Let's give that a moment, and it's installed. And that's it. Now, one thing I do like about Canvas is that it's actually pretty easy to get set up if you are starting from scratch and you have full control over your components. But this is where you're going to be spending a lot of time just building out components. I personally have not built a brand new site using Canvas because Canvas has only been out for less than a month. But I will be curious to see after a year or so what the build process is, or what the developer experience and also the site building experience is around Canvas. Okay, so we've got that all set up. If we come back here, let's go to content. You will get this new pages tab. And this allows you to create a Canvas page, which is different to your standard pages. So just be aware of that. So now if we click on add page, we get this new UI. Okay. So from the left-hand side, right-hand side, we can control a few things of the page. So let me just call this one landing page. Let's add that in. We can add SEO and so on and so forth. But we can save this. And let's go to pages, and we get a blank page essentially. Okay, we get a blank page. But if we click on edit, it takes us back to Canvas. So from a Drupal standpoint, from a fundamental Drupal standpoint, if you want to look at the code, the page, a Canvas page, is an entity type called canvas_page. So just be aware of that, okay? It is a separate page. As far as I'm aware, you can't add custom fields. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm not sure if you can add custom fields to it. Maybe they will in the future, maybe they won't. Then from the left-hand side, you can see all of your available libraries. And you can see that there are a bunch of libraries here. Some don't work, such as this one. Some of them do kind of work, depending, like, if you're adding a badge, that does work. And then on the right-hand side here, we have our text. Now, I should mention that the prop is the value on the right-hand side here. So you can see here that we have a prop on the right-hand side, and then you can go ahead and modify things. So you can modify your drop down, you can put in different sizes, and you can see it's a very natural process, and it works pretty well. You can put in a hero, but then, yeah, sometimes the hero images don't really appear correctly. And you need to kind of adjust things. So, and then on the left-hand side, if you click on layers, you can see your available then slots. So here, this content is a slot. So that means you can add other. Can you add other? Oh, there you go. You can add in a button. There you go. You can add a button, then you can add another component, into the slot. So this helps you visualize the difference between props and slots. So this stuff on the right-hand side are the props, and the actual region of if you think of it like that, is the actual slot. And then you can create your code components. Now, I covered this in Drupal Canvas video and also Drupal CMS version 2 video. And also, this is where you manage your pages. You can click on new and manage all your pages. And then you can click on and define your site templates, where you can modify, say, the full content view mode and so this allows you to essentially make changes similar to like the manage display page. But one thing that I have noticed with using Canvas is that it is good to have a section component that kind of wraps your main components up. And that's something that Artisan doesn't come with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit and move over some components that I created previously, because it just makes life a lot easier. So if we jump over here, I am going to cheat a little bit. So here I've got a bunch of components. I've got a very basic one called text, and that just chucks in text and allows you to move things around. I have a few here, and I've got my own card components. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I built out these components when I did the Tailwind video on Tailwind, so this should just compile. So all I have to do is really copy these over and then move them into components, and then just paste them in. And then go ddev restart. No, what is ddev? Drush cache rebuild. I'll get there eventually. And what we can do is let's get out of here. And if we go to appearance, we will get this a new tab called components. This is a good place to see what components you have on the site. You can even enable or disable them, but you can also see if a component is incompatible. So there may be some reason why it's incompatible. You can see here that Drupal Canvas does know the field type. That's probably the most common one that you get. Now, if your components are built in the wrong way or there's an error, you will get a fatal error straight away. But here, if we scroll all the way down, we should see our WW1, where you go. These are my custom ones, which I just kind of threw together. And if we go back, you can see that we have we've got our content components and they're not enabled. Oh, that's interesting, okay? They aren't enabled by default, so you must have to enable them. Okay. So now to use these components, we can come into pages and let's go and edit. And now if we click on the library, we should see right down at the bottom a group called WebWash, and these are the components that I have added in. Okay, so what we can do is we can add in a section grid. And I can put in title. And let's highlight it, give it a background color. Well, it's meant to work. Now, this is This is what I was mentioning about, that you have to make sure that when you add new code to your theme, you want to compile you want to compile Vite and make sure that all your classes are getting compiled, because things kind of look like they're working, but they're not. Because if I add in a, what is it, hero image, let me add in a hero image, and I'll also add a nice background, things kind of look broken. Okay, they look broken. So if we save it, and this is a good example of me showing you this, if we come to this page, you'll see that, well, it is kind of working, but it looks broken as well. And that is because I'm utilizing here classes that Tailwind doesn't have. So to fix it up, all I need to do is come along here. Because Vite, if we go to, where is it, Vite? No, we go to source, main.css. One of the sources is the components directory. So it's going to come along in here, find all the classes in here, and then compile these so we can actually use them. So all we need to do is run npm run build. And we refresh. And now, let's just, maybe we can't put a background color. Oh yeah, that's because that's in there. All right, let's remove this. Let's add the hero outside of that. And I'll add a background color. Hit save. And now if we preview it, we get a nice hero image that goes full width. Look at that. And now this is looking much better. It's looking much cleaner. It is actually working. And so if we come back here, let's go to, what is it, in preview? Oh, and you can also preview in different sizes as well, which is pretty useful. This is actually pretty useful. All right, so with this section grid, we can add in, say, text, if you like, which is pretty cool. I can add in a card component. I can duplicate this card component as much as I want. And then if I click on my component, my container component, I can change the columns. And believe it or not, like from a coding standpoint, this functionality isn't that hard to build. Is not hard to build. But the thing is, though, you do need some type of component, like a section component or a row component, whatever you want to call it, to kind of group things together. Because here, it is just these options right here, and the slot is a grid. And then here in Twig, we just define it, and we're just defining these, grid items right here. And that's it. And that is it. And yeah, technically, the heading could be a slot as well, and you're just passing a heading component. But you really do need to balance out, I think, usability as well. Because if somebody puts in a section grid, then they need to add in the heading component into a slot. I feel like that's more work than just adding in the title up the top here. I don't know. It's interesting to see where things are going to go in the future, because you really need to balance the use of props and the use of slots. It's like, what is a prop? What is a slot? And the scary thing is that once you define these components and you start using them, you can't change them. So straight away, I was thinking, well, can you version control components? I don't know. I've got no idea. Like, am I going to have to create maybe, will I have to create a card underscore V1, a card underscore V2? Perhaps, I don't know. Is that going to be the future? Like, for example, okay, I've used this component, this card component. I've got, a whole bunch of stuff on this card component, but I want another version of it, or I want to make a drastic change to it. I can foresee discussions about this with the client. This is this is going to happen in the future. You have a beautiful looking Drupal site with a whole bunch of components. And there's one component that they want to change 6 months later, but they've been using it and it's been used in 10 different places. And they're going to be like, oh, can we change it? Well, okay, technically you can change the component, but then you need to remove it for it to see the latest changes. Because when you create a code component, you can change it, but you can't change the slots unless it's not used. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if you just create another component. You can just create another component, give it another name, but yeah, give it a version number as well. I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell, eh? Only time will tell. But believe it or not, there are actual components that we can use that come with Artisan. And so some of them are, let me just give you a quick show of what they look like on actual daisyUI. So one of them is the stat. We can use that one, which is pretty cool. Well, a basic version of it. We can also use the, where is it? Steps as well. Again, a basic version of it. And I believe timeline as well, which is actually pretty cool. I've actually had a few great ideas for timelines. Yeah, something like this. Because I'm thinking of using like a timeline similar to this for like steps in doing, writing something out. Like, click here, click there, click there. When I saw that, I thought that, you know what, that would be pretty cool. So to implement this, let's go ahead. What I'll do is I will get rid of this one and let's put in a section grid up the top there. Why, no. Oh, yes, I do want a section grid, sorry. Yes. All right, examples. And let me make that 100 so it goes full width. Now, what we can do is we can go in here and let's do stats, and you have stats. So we're putting in the stats, and then we're putting in a stat, a single stat. And then we can add a stat 1, value, and then description. And best of all, we can duplicate it. Dupe. Okay, add as much as you want. Stat 2. There you go. Oh no, value 3, then value 4. Okay, there's a lot here. I don't think the icons are coming. So yeah, you kind of need, you would need probably a drop down for the icons, I believe. Okay, so that is that one. Then we have, say, the timeline. And again, you have a timeline and you have a timeline item. So let's pop this timeline in, and then we can drop in our timelines. So time 1, put in a date, and where is this? Yeah, see, you need to perhaps come along in here and duplicate it so we can see what it looks like. I think the timeline, oh, that's right, we need to select a option right here. And, oh, that's right, and that needs to be also a layout as well. There you go. And then we can duplicate that. You can make a change, but then you can change the checkbox color. No, neutral, secondary. Oh, look at that. Accent. That color can be error. Oh, pretty cool, pretty cool. And then if we come back here, let's do 50-50. There you go. You can pop them over there. That is pretty awesome. What's that? Oh, responsive. Wait, what's responsive? Okay. What does that do? Oh, okay. That's a startup. Horizontal. And then we have vertical. Well, look at that. Pardon? Look at that. And you can, yeah, make your changes, whichever way you want right here. So you can use some of these components. Actually pretty cool. Save that. Oh, well, let's just preview it. That's what it looks like. On mobile. There you go. That looks pretty cool. I do like this stats thing. That is pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. Huh. Okay. And the other one you can do, which one was the other one? Steps. Wait, no, that's timeline. The other one was steps. So let's put in a, wait, how can I add this to, oh no, sorry. It's going to go to there. It's going to pop down there. And then we put in steps and like value 1. And if we duplicate, 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 you can go in there, make your changes. And then if you on the layers section, oh, there's no options there, but then you can kind of see how it works. Okay. And if we want, we can display this as a 100% and it goes right down. It goes full width. Look at that. That looks pretty cool. That does look pretty cool. And we preview it and we have a few components there. So you can use also, what is it? Buttons as well. I think buttons work pretty well. Let's take a look at a few components here. You can use a button, but you can't, wait, how do you center it? Oh no, that's right. Well, maybe you need to add a bit more. Anyway, there's a few things you can do here. So that's pretty much it when it comes to using Artisan and daisyUI, and also how it integrates with Canvas. So as you can see, using daisyUI is relatively easy to get set up. And once you download it, all you need to do is run the command and just make sure you have npm installed, and it's going to compile everything for you. And it works pretty well out of the box. And it works nicely with DDev. And I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. But once you have it set up, configuring it to work with Canvas might require a bit of work. Like you just need to create a few components. But if you're willing to create your own components, or you want to modify the existing components and adjust them accordingly, it could actually work. Because the thing is, a lot of these components, I must say, a lot of these components, other than like button and things like that, yeah, you want to probably fix that up. But a lot of these other components are really used for the layout. So you may not want to give them to your user. See, that's pretty cool. You can do like those turns like that. That is pretty cool. I might do a video on how to do these type of components, build out these type of fun components. See, like this countdown. How hard is that? Oh, that's easy. Oh, I never thought of it like that. Yeah. I never ever thought of it like that. Interesting. Okay. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Drupal, head over to webwash.net. And as I mentioned, I do have a premium community if you want to support the channel. But also, if you want to learn more about Drupal, head over to the YouTube channel and you will see a whole bunch of videos. Just search for them under live, and there's probably 2 live streams that I had to re-upload on the video because the feed failed. Only 2 so far, which is good, out of like 80 or 90. And also, I do have a text version. I'm slowly building out text versions of the YouTube videos as well over at webwash.net. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment. And if there's any other parts of Artisan you want to learn about, let me know. Because if I can get a good idea for future live streams, that would be great. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Oh, all right, that was fun. Do some cool site building. I do like these site building ones. I'm gonna do probably a few of them. A lot more. Just like, okay, let's just build something in Drupal. I think that's what needs to be done. That is pretty cool. What are these templates? These templates look pretty nice. They do look pretty cool. All right, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you all had a great holiday and a New Year's and things like that. Ready for 2026? Who knows what's going to happen? Am I going to have a job by the end? Who knows? AI is going to take over everything and everyone. I do like this menu right here. I want to try and implement that. Oof, nice. Nice. Okay. Well, this is where all the fun happens. We can have a chit chat. So if anyone has any questions, please chuck them in. Be more than happy to chat. Okay, just checking out a few things. Yeah, see, this is the maybe I should have shown this actually. Yeah, to kind of explain daisyUI. Well, that's true. It's a lot of this stuff. It is pretty crazy what you can do with Tailwind when you have stuff like this. Can get a bit full on. Oh, just found a job. It's a contract with Daisy. Well, sorry, with Drupal and Next.js. Hey, well, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Oh, nice. A maintainer actually mentioned. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much for the theme, man. The theme is actually pretty. I really like the theme. I really like it. I really appreciate it. It's good that there's a nice theme available. Yeah. Well, hats off. Thank you very much for a great theme. I really like it. Yeah, how can I? Oh, no, I really appreciate it. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's yeah, with the components, with the components part, it's gonna be interesting to see how things go. Um, yeah, everyone's gonna be sending out their own components and things like that. But no, thank you for working on it. It's pretty cool. I really like it. Really like it. And I do like daisyUI. I think that's an awesome library. Absolutely awesome. Just the stuff you can do with it. It just does, it really saves you. Like, this is a perfect example. You go from all of these classes to just this. Look at that. Beautiful. Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I started using, what is it? Tailwind, the fact that you have to define the actual cursor as well. It's like, it really just resets absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Yeah. But look at that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, check it out. Artisan, brilliant theme. All right, so we have a question in YouTube. Okay, have a question. Do you think Next.js makes things easier for Drupal or more difficult? I'm still applying everywhere to get more stable job, but for now, the contract is a lifesaver. I don't think it's easier. Depends. I mean, that's a hard question. It's just a different way of building a site. I'll be more than happy to and I've worked in headless setups before where we had one Drupal site exposing all its data through GraphQL. And yes, it did complicate things because you have to deal with a extra, an extra team. So like you often have a front end team that you need to deal with, but it gives you the flexibility. So we used it mostly as a multi-site setup without doing Drupal's multi-site because Drupal's multi-site is painful. If you've ever done it, it's absolutely painful. So in this instance, we had GraphQL set up. So all the data was just served through GraphQL. similar to JSON API, but it's different. And then we had about 15 or 16 Next.js sites that were just pulling in content from the GraphQL site. Now, to implement that using standard Drupal would have been difficult because every site wanted a bit of a different design, and you could just spin up a Next.js site and you're done. And that's one thing I do want to look at. There is also, I did play around with Drupal Next.js, I think. There is a Next.js implementation with Drupal, and that's one collection of like a module and a front end I want to look at. And there's also one that utilizes Vue.js as well. And I do think that is an option, especially if it integrates nicely with Drupal. If you can get all of the views and stuff set up out of the box in the front end, then that's what really helps. Okay, does Artisan work well with Layout Builder? Maybe a better approach to build with Canvas instead. Well, I haven't played around with it with Layout Builder. Just give it a go. But I do believe that, yeah, now with Layout Builder, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Layout Builder goes. Because I feel like Canvas is kind of like a Layout Builder version 2. But yeah, I haven't played around with it with Layout Builder myself. Unless someone has, let me know. But there is some code, I think, to kind of integrate it with Layout Builder. So that's good to see. So yeah. But coming back to the question about Next.js and Drupal, the issue that you will have straight away when it comes to using, say, a Next.js is that you do lose a lot of Drupalisms. And what I mean by that is just the ability to create a view. You lose that capability. The ability to add blocks to a region and control the visibility settings are gone. Web form, gone. That ability, unless you write the front end code to handle that. And that's where you kind of have to then spend a bit of time setting that stuff up. Because in the implementation that I worked on, we had a lot of code to render out web forms, and you could build out custom web forms and have it rendered nicely on the front end, but you could only select a certain set of web form elements, and you couldn't do the conditional logic and things like that. So that's the thing you need to deal with. Is like, do you want the ability to handle that? Do you want to go down the path of having a headless setup? If you do, you want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Because if you're just doing it to build one website, you are kind of doubling the work, I would say. And I do know that there's been a big push now back to good old fashioned monolithic. I don't know. I just read it somewhere that a lot of sites that some sites who went headless have now gone back because they realize that it doesn't really actually just complicates things, because you have essentially two sets of deployments and things like that. And yeah, you just need to be aware of that. But who knows? Hey. All right. So in the last month, there's another comment here. So in the last month, I made many components. Setting up views are a pain in a neck as well. I'd rather create a content type component that handles. Well, yeah, exactly. So when you say components, is that like just single directory components or like a component in React? But yeah, I mean, you have to, that's the thing you need to deal with. The one thing with Drupal Canvas that I'm not sure about, and I was having this discussion today, was that, and this is a bit of a, coming back to like using, if it's, well, I didn't mention this, but it's like, this to me kind of seems like we are replacing paragraphs with Canvas. But one thing that I'm kind of aware of now, and I didn't think about this until I had this conversation with someone today about it, is that there's no way of creating a component and then referencing other entities, as far as I'm aware. Because I've worked on components called like a component where you have like a node list or something, and you chuck a paragraph in, put a title, and you just reference a bunch of nodes essentially. And so then it's kind of like, how do you handle that? That's one thing I'm sure. All right, my components / paragraph types made custom modules so we can use them on any site. Yeah, well, that's it. Oh, okay. So paragraph types. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle that, because essentially what you could do, what could you do? If you want to list out a bunch of, oh no, you can't. I'm trying to think, maybe if you use views, can you pass in variables using views? Let me have a quick look. Let me do this. All right, so if I create this as a block, what does it do? Okay, let's create this as a block. Save. Now, can I add this? Views, views, views. Where are the views? Components. So here I've got, no. Let's have a quick look. Artisan. All right, maybe I need to clear the cache. All right, let's do that. Let's clear the cache. What is it? What is it? Blog. Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right, it's here. So now if I add this, let me create. All right, so blog is here. Oh, okay. So it adds that, but there's no way of picking an individual, an individual card component. So if I come along in here, on our test page, let's do that. Test page, put in the, well, I can just chuck that in. All right, so that lists out, that's fine. Override settings, here we go. Okay. I wonder if you'll need to override these options. Let's have a look. Can you add in, wait, what's this block? Or blog, what's this one? Node. Let me just pass that in as a contextual filter, ID. Well, actually, no. I want to override that. So I'll pass in this. Provide default fixed query parameter. Change date. Oh, interesting. Oh, sorry. All right, so there's a comment here. Okay, where I just thought of an issue. If Drupal with Next.js doesn't use views, then we're setting up cron, for example, cron for events. Yeah, that's, well, all right. So if you are setting up cron, to update content in Drupal, then the front end needs to be updated as well, which is in Next.js. So yeah, I mean, oh, that's a tricky one. It's hard enough to do that in Drupal without having the front end. you could have issues where your CDN hasn't been updated or it's still showing a cached version. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure with that one. You have to test that out and make sure that Next.js is seeing the up-to-date refreshed version all the time. But then you also have caching to deal with in Next.js. And oh yeah, that's the other thing you need to deal with when you have Next.js. Caching. And on top of that, you have Next.js's caching as well. And then you have browser caching as well. It's like 10 levels of caching. It's too much caching. All right, let me test this out. So we'll type in 1, 2. All right. So block settings, so allowed settings. See, what if you can? I wonder if you can allow it as a block setting, that component. So if you have a component where you can allow to select your nodes, yeah, that's gonna be a tricky one. That is gonna be a tricky one, but come along in here, it's gonna display none, right? Yeah, because there's nothing there. Yeah, anyway. That is a tricky issue to deal with. But if I type in, what is it, 1, and pop that in there, I will see 1. But I wonder if you can add in extra settings here per block. Anyway, there's a lot involved here. There's a lot. Yeah, see, there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to Drupal canvas. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to implement it with paragraphs. I don't know. I feel like, you still have the benefit. There's still benefits to using paragraphs. I'm sure eventually we'd get that functionality, but yeah, we just need a way of doing it. Anyway. All right, well, I will leave you all to it. It's getting late here. Thank you very much for joining. To now come up with the next week's idea. I've got no idea what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Anyway, I'll come up with something. All right, well, thank you so much for joining. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And Happy New Year to everyone. And now it becomes that awkward part of how long do you say Happy New Year? Is it after the 7th or after the 10th? Do you have to stop saying it? You say it a lot and then you just randomly blurt it out on like the 20th of January. And then the person's like, wait a minute, it's been, what is the statutory of limitation when it comes to saying Happy New Year? Thanks a lot. All right, cool. Troubleshooting libraries with logged in users or roles very helpful. All right, cool. Thanks. Yeah, that's a good idea. Troubleshooting, yeah. Yeah, thanks for the tip with that. Cool. All right, well, thanks for joining. Okay, well, it's good to know the feed stayed up, didn't go down, which is, I'm happy. All right, cool. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone. Catch you all next week. See you later.